This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, happy weekend.
Hello, beautiful bell breakers.
We are back for your weekend wrap-up, wrapping up your weekend here on the Break the Bell Podcast.
Feels good.
It does. It does. It was quite the weekend, a long weekend to be exact.
It was.
I took a 2-day vacation, Thursday and Friday, and it was the longest 2 days of my freaking life. So I drove all 5 hours to St. Louis, and then went to a baseball game, and then went to the Arch, and then went to a campground, and then the next day went canoeing and shopping with it was just me and my son. Took a little mini vacation, and then 5 hours back, and it was just like, holy shit, that was a long 2 days.
Yeah.
Well, in the process of that, we got all the way like a half an hour south, and my vehicle broke down. So my wife had to come pick me up in her vehicle, and we went back and borrowed my in-laws' vehicle and drove back. So it was fun. It was great. The game was awesome. 13-0 blowout.
It's insane.
And but other than that, the weekend was just. Then I went and fixed my truck today and got it from a half an hour away. So it's just been a long weekend. So this is kind of my vacation right here doing this show. How was your weekend?
Just keep plugging away at the house, and then had a pool party yesterday, and fortunately it stopped raining long enough to enjoy that, and then we hung out last night.
Yeah, my 11-year-old, we drove right into a nasty storm on the way back from St. Louis, about an hour south of here. And the sky did turn a little green, and it was concerning. It was like downpouring, and it was like strobe lights. But my 11-year-old son was like, oh my God, it looks like we're driving into the Grinch's butthole. I was like, that's one way to put it, I guess.
Wow.
I never looked at it that way, but
you will now forever.
Yes, forever. Anytime I drive into like a green storm, it is now forever the Grinch's butthole. Did you experience the Grinch's butthole this weekend?
I did a little bit, yes. Yeah.
You just experienced a little bit of his butthole?
Just a little.
You didn't get deep
just kind of the rim.
You didn't get deep in the butthole, just a little bit.
Just the rim of it. So.
Fair enough. How's everybody doing out there? It has been a week. We are back doing this weekend wrap-up. We were back doing it full-time. I wasn't sure if I was even going to get to do it because of my vehicle issues, but we made it work. We did this for you, so be happy. Be freaking happy already. Are you happy?
I'm ecstatic.
Okay, good.
Yes.
That's all that matters to me is that Bill's happy. I do the show for Bill. It's really kind of I don't know, a counseling session for you.
Sure. Okay.
Like we just can talk through your problems and humanity, and I can talk you off the ledge in real time for everybody to hear.
Yeah. No,
so what is ailing you this week, Bill?
Oh man, I'm telling you. No, I just up too late last night, drinking and hanging out, which isn't a bad thing at all.
No, and then you come here and fall asleep during the middle of a podcast. You look very comfortable.
I haven't fallen asleep in a year or so.
You haven't fallen asleep that we've caught you in a year or so.
That's right.
You kind of prop your head up and you're just like,
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that sounds good.
We got a few things to cover this weekend. A few things went down during the week in the name of the news. But before we do, obviously we got to mention our sponsor, which is Run Your Mouth Coffee. Always Run Your Mouth Coffee, because we always run our mouth, and I am always drinking coffee. It is like my primary source of hydration. If I'm ever out hot and sweaty and thirsty, I turn to coffee because it's my life source. I know my body is like, no, drink water. But Run Your Mouth Coffee tells me that I have the right to drink coffee when I am dehydrated.
And you can tell anybody who says not to drink coffee to screw off.
Yes, we have the right to do that.
Yes.
Run Your Mouth Coffee is a coffee company, obviously, but they also promote and support your right to free speech, your right to be able to run your mouth, do a show like this, and say all the things that people don't want you to say, or at least the powers to be don't want you to expose, and without fear of getting kicked off, without fear of your family's disowning you and stuff.
Yes.
They just support your right to free speech, and we love that about them, and we love their coffee. So go to rymcoffee.com, tell them we sent you by using the promo code Break the Bell, and you'll get 10% off your purchase, and that's a freaking awesome deal, plus free shipping, which is even better.
Yeah.
All for saying that we sent you there. Drink delicious coffee, support free speech.
Doesn't get better than that.
Doesn't. Nothing more American than that.
Not at all.
Make sure you check us out all over social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter at Break the Bell Pod. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go down to the bottom and hit that subscribe button and the like button, because we're trying to build this thing back up to where our old nuked channel got.
We'll get there.
We will get there, and we can only do that with your help. So
I feel like we need to do like a telethon type thing. Like,
yes. Yes, exactly.
Can we count on you for your subscription?
Yes,
Thank you.
Exactly. We will cold call your house if we don't start getting subscriptions.
Yes. We will mention your name on air if you subscribe.
Well, we should start cold calling on the show.
That would
just
be
like, hey, have you heard of your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and the Break the Bell podcast?
Right.
Specifically the Break the Bell podcast. So, even if you're not on YouTube right now, go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Even if you hate YouTube, just do us the favor by hitting that like and subscribe button. Whatever social media platform you're on, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, because that's what gets us to be able to do bigger and better things, and that's what we want to do. We want to we want to expand our reach. We want to be able to spread the joy and the love and cheer that we have on this show to the uttermost edges of the galaxy.
Yes,
is our ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
Obviously. So
we love you to the moon and back.
Exactly. So do that. Like, share, subscribe. We have a new show. If you are unfamiliar, we do our main show on Monday nights still. We do our weekend wrap-up somewhere on the weekends.
Usually.
Mostly Sunday nights. But now I have started a co-op, a collaborative with my brother from the System is Down podcast and Smots of the System is Down podcast called Two Scoops. It's a morning show. It's short form for you people that are ADD and can't sit through the long form shows, the 2-hour shows that we drag you through on Mondays, or the 1-hour shows we drag you through on the weekends. If you're like, man, I really like you guys, but I can't make it through that long of a show, we have something for you, and it's in the mornings. Tentatively, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 7, but we reserve the right to say when we feel like it. So some mornings that may not be there, but for the most part, Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 7 a.m., you can join me and my brother live for Two Scoops, where we give you some of the most ridiculous takes on morning news that we can, because we're taking over the morning. We already have kind of the prime time segment taken over, so we're going after the morning airwaves too. So if you want something to enjoy while you get yourself ready to go take on your wonderful day of work, join us for the Two Scoop Show. Like I said, Tuesday and Thursday mornings live at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. I'm so used to saying 7 p.m. 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. It's a fun time. Did you catch the last one we did?
I did, actually.
Was it
with Hillary?
Was it enjoyable for you?
It was, yeah.
Would you recommend it to your friends and family?
I would. Yeah.
Good.
I actually I listened to it while I was working out. So
you see, yeah, I mean, you got your workout time.
Yeah.
You got your wake up and don't feel like talking to people and drinking your coffee time. I mean, that's the mood I'm in when I'm at that point. It's like I don't fucking want to talk. I just want to drink coffee. So why don't I podcast while I'm doing that? That makes sense.
Yeah.
So
well, it's perfect wake up, because otherwise you'd just be listening to somebody else. So you might as well just do it.
Yeah, I mean, would you rather watch Good Morning America? Who the fuck even watches that anymore?
Right?
So
yeah.
Come watch Two Scoops, 7 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday mornings live.
You had referenced our show Monday or Tuesday, where we talked about the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes.
Did you see Homeland has released these militia violent extremist guidelines or things to look for?
No.
You haven't.
It's coming.
Yes,
It's coming
yes.
as we predicted.
So they released this document, and on there there's certain symbols to look for, such as the.
Send that to me. We'll
yeah.
start with that.
Oh, okay. I will do that then.
Bill's like, we're doing this weekend news. I got this really good news, but I'm not going to share it for the weekend
Well, I
news.
just remembered it.
All right,
I
well,
just
send
sent
that
it to
my
you.
way. All right, so improv, because we don't prepare anyway, so we might as well
It's the weekend. Who
improvise.
prepares on the weekend?
So this is from the Federal Bureau of Investigations. It looks pretty official. There's a pretty official little heading up there, so it's got to be official, right?
Absolutely.
Let me pull this up in another tab so I can zoom in on it. So it says, summary, the following symbols are used by anti-government or anti-authority violent extremists, specifically militia violent extremists. MVE, or militia violent extreme. So anytime we say MVE from
That's
now
what
on,
that means.
militia violent extremists. Symbols are often found on propaganda, online platforms, memes, those dirty, pesky, scary
Yes.
memes out there, merchandise, group logos, flags, tattoos, uniforms, etc., etc. Widespread use of symbols and quotes from American history, especially the Revolutionary War, exist within MVE networks. Historic and contemporary military themes are common for MVE symbols. Why
So
is
now
this? This isn't even pulled up. I'm reading it, and nobody can see it right now. What the fuck? All right, there.
So now you can't reference Ben Franklin?
No,
right?
because that's... All right, so here's some of the symbols. Boogaloo alludes to the film Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo, used by some MVEs to refer to a violent uprising or impending Second Civil War. The Punisher School. We kind of knew a lot of
Yeah.
these.
And I have hats with Punisher skulls.
Well, yeah, because you're an MVE.
Yeah, of course.
Anarcho-capitalist, or ANCAP, an ideology held by some MVEs advocating for the state to be eliminated or minimized, and that public services be provided by private companies competing in a free market. All right, so if you're an ANCAP or an anarcho-capitalist, anarcho-capitalist,
Yeah.
whatever you call it, that doesn't make you a militia violent extremist. Just to say, I don't believe in the fucking government.
Right.
I don't believe in any government. Guess what? We say it all the time.
Absolutely.
I'm not violent extremist in any
No.
way. Yes, I own weapons for my own self-protection, but I have not joined any militia that I'm going to tell you about.
I feel like you're digging this hole.
Anyway, it's so reaching here to be like, these guys believe in the elimination or minimization of the government, so they must be violent extremists.
I mean, wouldn't that fall under like libertarians?
Yes. Yes, it would. Warrior culture. Military themes, both historical and contemporary, i.e. Spartans or Valhalla. So if you see
like any veteran out there.
the Spartan helmet here,
Yeah.
that's an MVE symbol. The black flag, an all white or all black, the black and white or all black American flag is used by some. There's a freaking gnat in here. Used by some to indicate no quarter shall be given. 2A, MVEs justify their existence with the Second Amendment due to the mention of well-regulated militia, as well as the right to bear arms. Electrical resistance symbol. I've never seen somebody put the symbol for a resistor as a way to identify violent extremism.
It kind of makes me feel dirty at work now.
Yeah, I know. How many? We put that symbol or see that symbol at work constantly, and so apparently we were provoking violence. There's the "Don't Tread on Me" flag or the Gadsden flag. There's the Liberty Tree. It was a famous elm tree in Boston near the Boston Commons. In 1765, colonists in Boston staged the first act of defiance against the British government at that tree. Or there's the Betsy Ross flag. Did you know the Betsy Ross flag was a symbol of violent extremism?
I did not know that.
I didn't know these violent extremists were using such propaganda, but apparently this is the thing. We're going to have to keep our eye out. And all you dirty libertarians out there that are flying your Gadsden flags, I no longer associate with you because clearly you are violent extremists.
check out page 2 of that.
That's what I'm
Oh,
pulling up
okay.
here.
Because I was thinking of our podcast Tuesday, and I saw this, and I was like, oh, shit.
All right, so this is the second page of this. This is, again, on official FBI internal use only. So, I mean, we're breaking the law already. Common phrases and references. I can't even read those. Oh, there's the where tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. I have a shirt that says this on it.
Yeah.
I think you got it for me,
I think
maybe.
I did, too. I set you up.
We are everywhere, and expect us. I'm having a hard time. It's so blurry. Like whoever scanned this didn't flatten out the image. Let's scroll down to where there's the 3 percenters. We know about them being a militia movement, supposedly. American Contingency, Oath Keepers, Lightfoot Militia. Significant events MVEs may reference. Oh, great. Fantastic. Number 1, Ruby Ridge. What did we talk about last week first and primarily?
Ruby Ridge.
What was the second one we talked about?
Waco.
There it is. And what's the third we talked about?
Oklahoma City.
Timothy McVeigh is on here. Notable attacks or criminal activity that inspire. Timothy McVeigh, the Crusaders. What I thought it was the Crusades. I was like, are you serious? Apparently in 2016, 3 MVEs were arrested for planning to conduct an IED attack on the apartment complex in Garden City, Kansas.
I did not know
where
that.
Muslim immigrants from Somalia lived and worshipped. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And also Steve Carey, I can't even read that. It's apparently in 2022 ambush-style attacks occurred against security personnel and law enforcement officers, and 2 were killed and 3 were injured. All right, and then there's this timeline, but I'm not going to read it because I can't
It's really hard to read.
freaking see it. So there you go. If you reference such things as Ruby Ridge and Waco, if you speak of notable attacks such as Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing, or if you fly the Betsy Ross or Don't Tread on Me flag,
Wear a
may
Punisher
be-
symbol or quote the Founding Fathers.
you may or may not be an MVE or what did they call it? Militia violent extremist. Maybe we are and we just don't know it. Is
Right?
it possible to be a violent extremist without knowing it?
I you know what? I think so. I
Like
think so.
subconsciously we're violent
Yeah.
extremists.
It must be a new pandemic.
But what if this all backfires on the FBI and people like us that don't realize that we are violent extremists see this and we're like, oh yeah, I checked that box.
Right.
Maybe I am a violent extremist, and then all of a sudden we turn violent extremists because
Because they told us that's what we
yeah,
were.
they told us
Yeah.
it, so we must be that now.
I'm-
So I guess it sucks for everybody out there because the FBI did this. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, like I said, this has got to be. I bet you some of the FBI guys follow into this.
Probably. I bet you a lot of law enforcement wear the Punisher stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they were doing away with a lot of the Punisher logos because it
Yeah.
represented like police brutality and
You know,
shit.
Marvel Comics has gotten rid of the Punisher logo.
Mm-hmm.
So
So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. If you want to hear more of our violent extremism, go to check out last week's episode where we spoke with Senor Jose of the No Way Jose podcast about some of the violent extremism of the 90s, some of the mistrust and anti-government movements of the 1990s, specifically like the militia movements and stuff. So we just kind of briefly talked about all these things. We didn't really deep dive into a
No.
lot of them.
no.
But it's a lot of interesting connections
Yeah.
to the 90s that we look at today and we're like, yeah, that's kind of going on now, too.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're putting all this shit out there and like, keep a watch out for this. It's just like they're building up. They're
They are.
obviously
Yeah.
building up.
They're
to something.
probably listening to our show and be like, "Yep, check."
They just need to listen to our show to come up with their list.
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening.
So let's get into some of the news that we actually plan to talk about. I mentioned that the car bombing in Russia. This is from the Associated Press. The title is "Car Blast Kills the Daughter of a Russian known as Putin's Brain." So damn it, the extremists killed Putin's brain's daughter.
Would that be like the amygdala?
I don't know. Let's pull this one up. Says the daughter of an influential Russian political theorist, often referred to as Putin's brain, was killed in a car bombing on the outskirts of Moscow, authorities said on Sunday. This is kind of scary to me because, again, this shit happens in third world countries. Nobody thinks anything of it unless, like, some foreign diplomat gets killed, and then we're all up in arms over it. But normally we're just like, another car bomb went off. But this seems pretty connected to, I don't know, this like war that might be going on between Ukraine and Russia. I mean, I'm not saying Ukraine is responsible for it, and it very well could be like a false flag attack.
Right.
Or maybe Putin's brain pissed off Putin, and so he went after his daughter. Or, I mean, they're thinking this was actually geared towards like kind of targeting Putin's brain. That's what I'm going to keep calling him. Putin wanted to blow his brain up. No, the guy they consider Putin's brain, they think he was the guy being targeted.
That makes sense.
And then his daughter just happens to be in the vehicle.
Yeah.
Wrong place, wrong time.
You see it in movies all the time.
Yeah. Says the Moscow branch of the Russian Investigation Committee said preliminary information indicated 29-year-old TV commentator Daria Dugina was killed by an explosive planted in the SUV she was driving Saturday night. I mean, do we have to think, like, just assume that they were going after Putin's brain? Or maybe they just didn't like this lady on TV.
Right. She was a public figure, it sounds like. So, yeah, maybe someone saw a report, or maybe she was investigating something she wasn't supposed to be. Somebody decided to offer.
There's definitely something here, and it's not going to end well for anybody. Because even whether it was Ukrainians, which I don't think Ukrainians would get all the way into Moscow to pull this shit off.
Not Russian soil.
Whether it was this, God forbid, the CIA, or whether it was Putin taking out one of his own, like maybe it was somebody that was kind of outspoken towards the end, even though this guy supposedly was very supportive of the war in Ukraine. He's like had Putin's back the whole time. You know, maybe Putin did get like super paranoid at the. I mean, look at who was it? Stalin was always fucking paranoid, always taking out his own like right-hand men and stuff.
That's true.
And so you just never know. But even if that's the case, he's not going to come out and fess up and be like, I took the bastard out. Yeah. He's going to be like, no, it's those dirty Ukrainians and they're Nazis, obviously.
Well, I mean, to be honest, if he took out the brain, I mean, he'd be like, there were some problems. I'd take him out. But because he missed, he has to say it was somebody else.
Right. Well, I don't even think he'd come out and say he took out the brain. This is just...
I think the last thing he said to him was, I just wish you good health.
Probably. It says, let's see. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but the bloodshed gave rise to suspicion that the intended target was her father, Alexander Dugin, a nationalist philosopher and writer.
Oh, I know him.
You know him?
I mean, not personally, but
I know him.
No, he is, he's very right-wing, very anti-homosexual. Yes, yes.
Maybe the gays took him out.
And that's a possibility, yes.
Can we just exclude the fact that maybe possibly the gays took him out?
I watched a report on him from Glenn Beck, and he said that he thought he was basically the Antichrist.
Glenn Beck thinks Dugin's the Antichrist.
Yes.
Maybe Glenn Beck took him out.
I mean, Glenn Beck could have. He's gotten up there. He's probably got a private army.
Dugin is a prominent proponent of the Russian world concept, a spiritual and political ideology that emphasizes traditional values, the restoration of Russia's power, and the unity of all ethnic Russians throughout the world. He is also a vehement supporter of Russian President Vladimir Putin's move, sending troops into Ukraine. The explosion took place as his daughter was returning from a cultural festival she had attended with him. Russian media reports cited witnesses as saying the SUV belonged to Dugin and that he had decided at the last minute to travel in another vehicle.
That's fucked
Maybe
up.
Maybe he had his daughter
I was
killed.
going to say.
It's like, no.
Oh, so you want to date Chad, huh?
No. You take the freaking Mercedes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ride in the freaking Beamer over here.
Right,
She's like, "Are you sure, Dad?"
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I want you to have the nicer.
Right.
The car bombing, unusual for Moscow, is likely to aggravate tensions between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Says Denis Pushilin, president of the separatist Donetsk Republic, the pro-Moscow region that is a focus of Russia's fighting in Ukraine, blamed the blast on terrorists of the Ukrainian regime trying to kill Alexander Dugin. So you're going to see a lot of the throwing back and forth. It says political analyst Abbas Galyamov, a former speechwriter for Putin, called the attack an act of intimidation aimed at the Kremlin loyalists. To them, he said this is a symbolic act demonstrating that hostilities have been confidently transferred to the territory of Russia, which means that this is no longer an abstract war that you watch on TV. This is already happening in Russia. Not only Crimea is being bombed, but terrorist attacks are already being carried out in the Moscow region.
So they're already trying to play it up as
this is a thing.
Yeah.
This is a big thing.
Right.
This is Ukrainians trying to prove a point. This isn't something that you can just sit back and ignore while our country gets... I mean, I don't know. Which side do you think is more the culprit?
I don't. Again, I don't think Ukraine has the balls to try to pull something like this off. I really think that it's something in-house.
It's either something in-house or it's some foreign agency.
Yeah, some United States, some
Israeli,
other NATO type country that decided to get a dig in.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to think security in the region is ramped up enough to prevent some random Ukrainian from crossing the border, getting into Moscow, getting a bomb into some dignitary's vehicle like this, and then, oops, we blew up the wrong person. No, I really think it's probably either some Russian, maybe some like anti-Putin Russian.
That's possible, yeah.
Element, or some like foreign faction that wants to keep this war it sparked this war even bigger than it already is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I definitely feel, there's definitely more here. Is that not bothering you?
It's landing on my fucking nose every 5 seconds. It's pissing me off. So there's that. At the same time, speaking of possible tension with Russia, you know how we play these war games in like eastern parts of Europe, and that kind of makes the Russians a little unhappy, and we put military personnel in like Poland and in Ukraine, and then Russia's like, you know what, if you're gonna do that, I'm gonna fucking attack Ukraine.
Right.
Well, we always push this theory, you know, what would happen if that were the Russians were to do that in the Western Hemisphere over here? Well, now we don't have to speculate anymore because this is happening, and we don't actually have to speculate because we saw it with Cuba. What happened when they started putting nukes in Cuba? We lost our fucking mind. So, we called that a crisis when they put nukes in Cuba.
Right.
But we're putting nukes in Poland, and we're supposed to be like, you know, there's no problem here, guys. Like, why are they getting so upset about this? It's like we were pretty upset about it 50 years ago.
Right.
But apparently, Russians, Chinese, and Iranians are beginning military drills in Venezuela.
Yes.
Which still, that's not that close. It's not like the Mexican border or Cuba.
Right.
But still, it's in our hemisphere now.
Right.
So this is from Archide.com. I don't know. It says, soldiers of the National Armed Force began this Saturday military maneuvers hand-in-hand with Russia, China, Iran, Belarus, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, Myanmar, among others, in Barquisimeto, which is in Venezuela. The military exercise had the purpose of exhibiting their techniques and capabilities in use of armored vehicles, AK-47s, ammunition, long-distance shooting with snipers, and remote-controlled drones.
I heard it's kind of like the Olympics of
like foreign fighters.
Right, yeah.
It says these acts will be held until August 27th and will be held in different locations in Lara State, including the Tarpama Military Fort, where the review of the facilities where the sniper border training is carried out, a new modality that premieres in the country. It says Russian interest in military maneuvers in Venezuela. Likewise, according to information from the press, the Bolivarian force from the Russian Federation, the Maintenance and Integral preparation of the T-72 armored vehicle was carried out, which will compete in the tank battalion discipline or tank biathlon discipline.
Oh, I wonder if this is going to be on the Ocho.
I want to see. I want to watch a tank biathlon.
know.
What the hell does that include? That sounds fucking awesome.
Get it? What was Jason Bateman's character in Dodgeball? Get him like announcing it.
Cotton. That was a hell of a tank, Cotton. I just watched that show not too long ago. Oh, it's great. From watching Ozark and then going back and seeing Jason Bateman in that. It's freaking hilarious. It says the Spanish paper indicated that this type of event is conducive to the organization of an arms market, which turns Venezuela into the Persian market for remote-controlled weapons. In this sense, various groups of buyers, including criminal organizations, drug traffickers, and adventurers, come to acquire the latest developments in sophisticated weapons, points out the ABC. So, also, Iranian drones are being assembled in Venezuela. Says, in addition, within the framework of these investments, Iran built a factory for drone assembly in Caracas, which were modernized and armed in Venezuela. These teams that were previously known as Mohayer 2 have the name Antonio Jose do Sucre 100 or ANSU 100 under nationalization. With respect, both Israel and the American chain CNN warned that Russian interest in visiting Venezuela to learn about weapons capacity of these devices. Why are we concerned about this? Like, why does another country like doing military operations in another country, why does that bother us when we're fucking doing this all the time in Europe?
Yeah.
Like, I understand the direct concern, like, wow, they're really fucking close.
Yeah.
And the criminal networks that could be getting their hands on this shit, but how often do criminal networks get their hands on our shit that gets
Fast
sent
and
to
the Furious, anybody?
Yeah, we just read about how only 30% of our weapons get to the Ukrainian fighters in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And most of it's going to like the black market and
all
shit.
those weapons left behind in Afghanistan. I mean, Benghazi was a huge arms sale.
Right. It's like we don't even have a leg to stand on to be like, you guys can't do that.
Yeah.
You dirty rats, you can't do it. It's just like, whoa. You guys set the precedent here for doing military operations, military sales with close neighbors. So we're just following your example that you set in Europe for the last 50 years plus since World War II, probably.
Well, and like we had talked about, I mean, in trying to, stop the mobility of communism, how much bad did the United States do?
All kinds of it.
And now you have these countries that are coming together because, the United States, and it's like, do you really blame them? I mean, Vietnam, Myanmar, and
even if it's not to like fuck with the United States, it's like, you don't really have a place to dictate who they do deals with.
It kind of, it sounds like, you always hear about see in these movies, like these arms deals, like these like conventions of bad guys, coming together as like the newest missile launcher modeled by Heidi here. And I can just see that happening there. And I really want to go.
Yes, me too. I just watched the Minions movie, The Rise of Gru.
Okay.
And that kind of reminds me of when all the villains kind of get together and show off the latest and greatest tech. And that's probably what this is. It's like the meeting of the supervillains. And sounds pretty badass to me.
Right? I know.
The Rise of Gru made supervillains look kind of like badasses.
Yeah.
And it's great. You should watch it. How does a movie like that come out? It's like, how do we praise supervillainy? We gotta there's gotta be people out there protesting that we put such glamour onto supervillainy.
Yeah.
And in such a world of violent times, we are building the supervillains up as the good guys. How do you sleep at night knowing that you watched that film? Really good, actually. Let's move on. What do you think of that? Are you concerned about Russia and China and Uzbekistan?
I'll be honest. I'm not concerned about the fact that they're operating war games down there. I think what it does show is that as there is a NATO, the United States is networked with other countries.
Right.
There is a anti-NATO right?
The anti-NATO.
And so
Coming
there's
soon to theaters. Anti-NATO.
so there's all these countries that are kind of, watching each other's asses and on the other side of things, and
I mean, they got to have alliances too.
absolutely.
I mean, whether or not they're on the right side or the wrong side or whatever,
Yeah.
their own fucking side, they think they're in the right, and they're not going to just be like, you know what, we better not involve
Right.
ourselves with other people because we don't want to get them in trouble. No, it's like, dude, you got my back, I got your. You're a pretty small country. I got tanks, you got drones. We could all work together and
Right.
share. And if things kick off, I just want to know you got my back. I mean,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
what NATO
And
is.
it's not like they're sitting around being like, yeah, we're going to have a supervillain convention down there, all us bad guys. I mean,
Maybe they are.
well,
Maybe
that's-
we
that
can't put
would
it
be
past them.
very self-aware of them.
Yeah, so maybe they're just like, this supervillainry is like way
There's real
more,
money in this.
Yeah, it's way bigger deal than you being on the good side.
who
so
does that?
Yeah. Let's move on. We're still in like Central America though. Let's move up to Mexico. Mexico.
Mexico.
I don't remember this story. Do you remember the story of the disappearance of
There's so many disappearances in Mexico.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
do you remember the story of the students that disappeared in Mexico? It's like which
Yeah,
what
which
ones?
time?
What ones?
Yeah.
When? Which one? Apparently this was in 2014 and it was a big deal because it
Okay.
involved like corrupt police officers
in Mexico.
and in Mexico. And it involved possibly drug cartels
In Mexico.
Mexico. And it involved like torture and disappearance of these students in Mexico. So, we narrowed that down.
Yes, yeah.
The only thing that narrowed it
Right.
down was 2014, and there's probably like 6 other events in
Yeah, right,
2014. Sorry, Mexico. We don't.
You check all the boxes.
Yes. Well, apparently, the top prosecutor that was involved in that case has been arrested for his own role in the disappearance of these students.
Which explains why they never found him.
Yeah. In the very least, he was like involved in the cover up of it. But his arrest warrant, he was arrested on charges of forced disappearance, torture, and obstruction of justice. So it sounds like he had a heavy hand in it. Yes.
Right. Like he was driving the bus.
Right. Says Mexico on Friday arrested a former top prosecutor who led the heavily criticized investigation into the disappearance of 43 students in 2014 on charges of forced disappearance, torture, and obstruction of justice. Jesus Murillo Caram is the highest profile arrest so far in connection with the case, which shocked the nation and the world. The former attorney general is considered the architect of the so-called historic truth version. So he's the one that wrote the mainstream narrative.
You're right. Yeah.
It'd be like whoever wrote the 9/11 report. He's that guy. So he's the architect of the mainstream version of events. Says presented in 2015 by the government of then-President Enrique Nieto, which was widely rejected, including by relatives. Current President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador reopened the investigation shortly after his election in 2018. Murillo, a former heavyweight of the once dominant Institutional Revolutionary Party, who lives in Mexico City, was arrested outside his home, according to a statement from the Attorney General's office. It says the 43 students from Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College in the southwest state of Guerrero went missing as they were traveling by bus to a demonstration. Investigators say they were detained by corrupt police and handed over to a drug cartel, which
what kind of demonstration? Was it to demonstrate against the cartels?
it doesn't say. It just says a demonstration. And so that makes me wonder if that's what they were involved with, like a demonstration against the government or against the people that had like perpetrated this. They're like, yeah, we're going to shut you guys up. So the investigators say they were detained by corrupt police and handed over to a drug cartel, which mistook them for members of a rival gang. But exactly what happened to them has been hotly disputed. According to the official report, cartel members killed the students and incinerated the remains at a rubbish dump, but those conclusions were rejected by families as well as independent experts and the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights.
So they probably they captured them thinking they were rival gang or rival cartel members. Then they were like, shit, you got the wrong bus. Well, they've already seen our faces, so we might as well kill them.
Or whatever they're demonstrating against, maybe the government didn't like this so much, and they're like, take care of these guys and make it look like it was a cartel thing, because everybody will believe the cartel killed them.
Right, absolutely.
And then, as we know, the cartel kind of works hand in hand with not only the Mexican government, but also like the CIA and the FBI here. And we have cartels on our payroll that fight the bad cartels. There's the good cartels, you know?
Right.
Have you ever watched, what was it? Sons of Anarchy, I think.
Oh, no.
Like they started working with the cartel, and they found out that the cartel was actually involved with the FBI because they were trying to take out the other cartel.
Okay.
So they were working with the better of the two cartels. I don't know. So anyway, there's a lot of corruption.
Yeah. Right.
All that to say, there's a lot of corruption. So
Yes.
it'd be easy to peg it on a cartel and be like, oh, it's clearly drug cartels.
Right.
And they probably thought they were rival gang members. And that's the end of the story, guys. And the family members were like, something
though?
doesn't add up, because last I heard they were going to demonstrate against you guys.
Right. Yeah.
But it doesn't really give a lot into
Yeah.
the details, unfortunately, because this sounds like a Hollywood film.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I heard that they found some bone fragments at the dump, and they think that might be part of what may have happened to him.
Says Murillo's arrest came a day after Mexico's top human rights official called the student's disappearance a state crime, and the military bore at least partial responsibility, either directly or through negligence. Their actions, omissions, or participation allowed the disappearance and execution of the students, as well as the murder of 6 other people. So it says, Encinas also said the highest level of Nieto's administration orchestrated a cover-up in the aftermath of the incident. So if they weren't directly involved, they were at least involved in covering this
Right.
up
Yeah.
and whitewashing it to make it look like something it
But,
wasn't.
I mean, could you imagine this asshole? Like, okay, he's responsible for covering this up, but then going to the families, being like, we are doing everything in our power to find them.
Yeah, and he happens to be directly related to it, but he's the the top investigator on the scene. It's
Right.
just like, no, why don't you guys go look over there?
Yeah, right,
I
yeah.
bet I saw something moving over
Yeah.
there. Go look over there. Oh, don't worry about this. There's nothing here.
Right,
Just
yeah.
go. I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be easy for him to be like, no, well, you're not going to keep looking into this lead, because that's not the direction it leads. I mean, he could steer the investigation wherever he wants
absolutely.
it to.
But to be kissing the parents' ass, you know, and then on the other hand, just making sure they never find out.
What do you think happens to this guy?
Oh, yeah, I think he's gonna get shanked in prison.
I think he's going to be brutally, murdered somehow. Says publicizing atrocious, inhuman situation, and at the same time punishing those responsible helps to prevent those deplorable events from happening again, said the current president, and strengthens institutions. So it also could be like, this guy's a rival politician.
I was just gonna say that
He's on the other party. Let's take that guy out. I mean, you just never know with politics these
absolutely.
days.
Yeah. Nope.
So I just found that bizarre.
That is
and
really
felt
bizarre.
like talking about it. But we got a couple more things. We got about 10 minutes left, so let's keep going. Have we talked about COVID recently?
I think it's been a minute.
There been a long enough gap in time of us taking a break from COVID that we can return to talk about
No,
COVID? There's never
No.
an appropriate amount of time, but we're going to anyway. So there's 2 things about COVID here. Number 1, the Wuhan lab. You remember the Wuhan lab?
Yes.
The thing that we're not allowed to speak of?
Yeah. I was thinking about getting it tattooed on me.
Yeah. The lab that happened to be working with bats in COVID and happens to be the territory that the COVID virus broke out in. Naturally, in the wet markets, obviously nothing to do with the fact that they may or may not have been doing gain-of-function research there that may or may not have been directly funded by the NIH here.
Yes.
Well, they're back in the news because apparently the NIH has decided to stop giving them money.
Oh, well, that's a twist.
Right?
Like, son of a bitch.
It's like, well, I mean, we weren't funding them, but we're no longer going to fund them.
Right. So now we're really not funding
We're
them.
we're not funding them so hard now. Says the U.S. National Institute of Health has ended a subgrant to the laboratory in China located where the first COVID-19 cases were identified in 2019. Says U.S.-based EcoHealth Alliance was granted $3.7 million. Now remember, what was the dude's name that was directly like sending gain-of-function research money, and we weren't funding them, but we were funding this guy, and he was funding them. Do you remember? I can't remember the guy's name, but he was EcoHealth Alliance.
Yeah. He worked for Fauci, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. But he was working for EcoHealth Alliance, and that's where the money funneled through to get to Wuhan Lab. So the NIH could say, we don't fund them. But it says EcoHealth Alliance was granted $3.7 million starting in 2014, right about the time that Obama said, we're
not doing it.
Fund gain-of-function research to study bat-related coronaviruses. It conveyed some of the money to the Wuhan Institute of Virology located in China. The grant was renewed in 2019, but suspended in 2020 because of concerns that grantees were failing to comply with conditions attached to the money.
Peter Daszak.
Daszak, there you go. Yes. So in 2020, it was suspended because the grantees weren't complying with the conditions attached.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we say, now this is not for gain-of-function research. Here you go, wink, wink, wink.
Yeah, right.
And then in 2020, when all this shit comes out, they're like, well, you kind of weren't following our rules that we set here, so they suspended it in 2020. Says the NIH's review of the concerns has concluded. Dr. Michael Lauer, an NIH deputy director, revealed in a letter on August 19th. It determined that all the problems cannot be fixed. Therefore, the NIH informed EcoHealth Alliance that the subaward to the Wuhan lab is terminated for failure to meet award terms and conditions required, provisions of records to NIH upon request.
You know what this tells me?
Huh.
Is that
something's
they're
about
covering
to come out.
they're covering their own ass now. They're like, well, we gave them specific guidelines that they needed to follow, and
no, wait, go back to 2020 when all this shit came out. They specifically were like, no, we were giving money to EcoHealth, and they were giving money to that. So how come now they can fucking come out and be like, we're suspending this grant for Wuhan? It's just like, they knew that money was going there, so they're all their denial in 2020 doesn't fucking add up now when they can just cut that off and be like, well, we're not cutting off funding to EcoHealth, but we're cutting off the grant that goes to Wuhan.
Well, and again, why aren't you hearing about this anywhere else?
Oh, yeah.
So nobody else is going to hear about it or care about it.
No, it's just going to breeze by because we got midterms. We got, I'm going to talk in a minute, the CDC is relaxing their COVID restrictions and all their COVID guidelines. All of a sudden, it's just like, well, you don't have to do this or that. But this isn't going to hit mainstream news. This is from Zero Hedge, which does a lot of the not so mainstream. It says grants from the U.S. government come with certain conditions, including timely reporting of results and adequate monitoring of experiments. The EcoHealth Alliance failed to perform a review of the research conducted under the grant, which included making bat coronaviruses more dangerous.
Boom. It's right there.
So, are we allowed now to say that this potentially could be a lab leak scenario? Are we allowed yet to say this?
You can, but no one's going to listen.
Says the agency in January said EcoHealth Alliance failed to comply with other conditions with the grant. What were the other conditions? That would be a great question.
Don't let it out.
The NIH asked for plans to correct the failures, which was provided on February 4th, and the NIH determined that the plans were sufficient. Separately, though, the NIH asked EcoHealth in 2021 and again in January for lab notebooks and original files from the research conducted at the Wuhan lab. It has not received them, according to the new letter. So instead of canceling the sub-award to Wuhan lab because EcoHealth Alliance is not meeting your requirements, why don't you end all fucking funding to that company altogether until they do what they're told? Why don't you fucking subpoena these records and be like, you know what? You are a U.S.-based health or whatever company, and And we have these concerns. I mean, the fucking Senate could come out and subpoena these records whenever they
Absolutely.
wanted to.
Yeah.
But instead, they're just playing this freaking little pass the buck game. It's just like, well, we're just not going to give you that money to go to Wuhan anymore. It's like, no, cut them off completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says EcoHealth executives have said that it passed along the request, but has not heard back from the WIV. The refusal, so maybe they have, and it just disappeared in transit
Right,
somewhere.
yeah.
It's just like, well, guys, you didn't, and they're like, whoa, we did pass it along, but we haven't received it, so obviously we can't release this to the
It
public.
sounds a lot to me like a bus of 43 students.
Yes, just disappeared. Says the NIH has determined that the WIV, so EcoHealth passed it to the WIV, who is supposed to pass it to the NIH.
Right.
Just like, just fucking go get
yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. He's down the hall, man.
I don't know. Oh, WIV is the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Oh, okay.
So EcoHealth said they passed it along, the request to Wuhan, but Wuhan hasn't gotten back to Echo Labs.
okay.
So that's why they're like, well, just cut off Wuhan or whatever. It's like,
They're like, we've been busy testing fish for COVID, okay?
so what do you think?
It's ridiculous to me that, again, they're going to start releasing stuff, but nobody's paying attention. Nobody
No,
cares.
No, because we got Mar-a-Lago getting raided. We've
Yeah.
got all these domestic terrorists on the loose flying their Betsy Ross flags and
Yep.
being anarcho-capitalists and
Yep.
stuff. So,
Midterms coming up. You got the anti-inflation bill. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
I mean, we also, like I said, on the same lines with COVID, the CDC came out last week and said, all those things that we've been doing for 2 years, you don't got to do those anymore. Don't worry, COVID's not dangerous anymore.
Yeah.
Even though they just made part of the city like mask up like a
Yeah.
month ago here.
Right. There was a lot of people masked up.
Says the CDC has relaxed COVID-19 guidelines and drops quarantine requirement. Just out of nowhere. It's just like, this quarantine thing,
Yeah.
you don't got to do this anymore.
New York City, Chicago, you guys just chill.
Now the whole theory behind this is because of all the strict guidelines we implemented for the last 2.5 years and the vaccine that has allowed COVID to evolve to such a minor, like, dangerous state that we don't have to do these things anymore.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you think that if these things actually work the way they're supposed to, they'd be like, guys, even though this isn't as strong or isn't as contagious as it used to be, we still should take the same precautions by, like, maintaining the bullshit 6 foot of social distancing, the quarantining for 10 days or whatever. We should still do that just in case, so it doesn't become the super contagion it was. No. The CDC recommendations apply to everyone, it says, but changes could be particularly important for schools, which resume classes this month in many parts of the country. The nation's top public health agency on Thursday relaxed its COVID-19 guidelines, dropping the recommendation that Americans quarantine themselves if they come into close contact with an infected person. So that goes away.
But here's the problem, though. They're going to relax it, but people aren't going to relax it. People are going to be like, well, yeah, the CDC says it, but we want to be our customers to be safe, so we're not going to relax.
Safe. Yeah,
exactly.
Says the CDC also said people no longer need to stay 6 feet away from each other.
What about
How does that
monkeypox?
apply? Yeah, how does that fucking apply?
Yeah, I know.
Like, how do you, for 2.5 years, say
Yeah.
the way to battle this is obviously germs have a 6 foot social distancing guideline themselves. So if you stay within 6 feet, you're not going to transmit it.
Yeah.
Now COVID's still going around, and we got monkeypox on, which. Do we still got to masturbate 6 feet from each other?
I think
for
so,
monkey-
yes.
Yeah, is that still
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
It says the changes, which come more than 2.5 years after the start of the pandemic, are driven by a recognition that an estimate 95% of Americans 16 and older have acquired some level of immunity. Wow. So wait a second. Because 6 months ago, a year ago,
Yeah.
some levels of immunity was not good enough.
Right.
Some levels of immunity, 95%, because I guarantee you 95% of the country is not vaccinated.
Oh, hell yeah.
A year ago, the only immunity that was at all acceptable was a full-blown 4-dose whatever of
Right.
vaccines.
Yeah.
And now it's like, Well, now 95% of Americans have acquired some level of immunity.
Yeah.
Do you know what some of that is? It's people who have already had it
Yeah.
that we've been saying for 2.5
Yeah.
fucking years. It's
Right.
like if you get it, you have some level of
Yeah.
immunity to it. And now that's acceptable now because
Yeah.
guess what's in a month and a half? Midterm
Midterms.
election.
Yep.
So we're going to make the numbers go like drastically different because and make people all happy.
Yep.
And people, people will forget all the bullshit that
fuck
they've
yeah.
been put through for 2.5 years. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, everything's back to normal.
Yeah.
Like things are fine.
Yeah.
Look how bang up job our government's doing. We're
Right.
back to
Yeah, they beat the corona.
Yes. It says the current conditions of the pandemic are very different from those of the last 2 years. All of a sudden, in the month of August 2022, COVID just magically changed.
Yeah.
Magically turned around. It's just like, I don't want to infect people so much
Yeah.
anymore.
Had
to change
a
of
lot
heart.
like the common cold now.
Hey,
The
I feel
fatality
like-
rate is only 0.003% now.
they're going to say this shit.
Oh, I know.
They're going to come out and be like,
Yeah.
guys, why are you so worried about going out to vote? Because
Yeah.
COVID only is about as effective as a bad cold these days. And they're just going to regurgitate
Yeah,
the same
everything
shit
that we've been saying for the last couple of years.
2.5
Yeah.
years. The recommendations apply to everyone in the U.S., but the changes could be particularly important for schools. Perhaps the biggest education-related change is the end of the recommendation that schools do routine daily testing. Were they doing that?
I didn't know they were.
Not in Iowa, they weren't. Although that practice can be reinstated in certain situations during a surge in infections. The CDC also dropped a test-to-stay recommendation, which said students exposed to COVID-19 could regularly test instead of quarantining at home to keep attending school, with no quarantine recommendations anymore. So no quarantine recommendations.
If you get it, then maybe just distance yourself.
Yeah, so it says the testing option disappears too.
Yeah.
Masks continue to be recommended only in areas where community transmission is deemed high, or if a person is considered at high risk. The same. All right, I got to calm down here. So, 2.5 years ago, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure we said, if there's an area where you're really susceptible of getting COVID, maybe don't go there.
Right.
Or if you're already a person of high risk being infected,
You wear the mask.
maybe you should wear a fucking
Yeah.
mask and not go places.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying now.
Yeah.
Again, regurgitating
Did you
all
go to
the
medical
things.
school? I mean, is that something you picked up?
No, I didn't.
How-
No, I don't.
wow.
No.
How'd you know that then?
I'm just really, really smart.
Huh.
School districts across the U.S. have scaled back their COVID precautions in recent weeks, even before the latest guidance was issued. Some have promised a return to pre-pandemic schooling. Public schools in L.A. are ending weekly COVID tests, instead making at-home tests available to families. Schools in North Carolina's Wake County also dropped weekly testing. Let's see. The American Federation of Teachers. Do you remember them?
Yes.
Do you remember they were the ones pushing more stay at home,
Yep.
more online schooling, more lockdown
Yep, they're
procedures?
afraid for their lives.
The American Federation of Teachers, one of the nation's largest teachers unions, has welcomed the guidelines. So they're on board too.
No. Well, they're
Yeah.
not so afraid anymore. They're not writing out their will in class. You remember that?
Yes, I do. Says after 2 years of uncertainty and disruption, we need as normal year as possible.
Fuck
so
them.
we can focus like a laser on what the kids need. What happened to the last 2 years of what the fucking kids needed?
Yeah.
Like
right.
we didn't give two shits about what the kids
Oh,
needed.
yeah.
The fact that it like damaged them psychologically, their development by not being able to see faces for
Right.
2.5 fucking years. Nobody cared about the kids' laser needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
back
Normal as possible then. Yeah.
No, it was all about whatever this freaking bullshit
Yeah.
mantra that they kept screaming, trust the science. Well,
Right.
here we are again, a classic example of why we don't trust the science,
Yeah.
because the science just
Fucking changes.
flips on a dime. It's
Yeah.
not even like, oh, we're just going to phase this thing out
Mm-hmm.
as it goes. Because remember, like last year sometime, it was like full blown, the end of the world is near,
Yeah, yep.
like the dark winter. Then all of a sudden,
You're
it's
gonna
just
kill
like,
grandma.
it's like, guys, you don't have to mask up in public anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Just a week ago, you were
Right.
saying everybody was going to die.
Yeah.
1 week ago.
Yeah,
It's
they were
not,
just saying numbers were up again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now it's like, yeah, it's okay.
and they,
all
I
right.
mean, they were saying numbers were up a month ago today.
Yeah.
And we were just like, nobody's going to buy this shit. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, we don't got to do anything.
And
no
the reason why is
quarantine.
because nobody bought the shit.
Yeah, no quarantine. The teachers' unions are like, guys, we got to we
Yeah,
really got to focus on
the kids. Need us.
and just think about the children, guys.
Yeah,
Think about the
children.
Well, we are about over time. I do have one more push towards the freaking midterms, and I think that's all the COVID restrictions
yeah.
letting up was.
It is.
Hey, we're heading into midterms. We got to make the people happy again.
Yeah. We got to
Just-
make them look like we were doing stuff.
Just like the Inflation Reduction Act happened to get passed a month
Right.
before, 2 months before. Just like President Biden single-handedly dropped gas prices down,
Right. Yeah.
a fraction of what they went up
Yeah.
over the summer.
Yeah.
All just in time.
and-
Just in time for
and
midterm
he
elections.
killed one of the 9/11 co-conspirators.
Oh yeah, he took him out with his
Oh,
bare
yeah.
knuckles. Speaking of the midterm elections, I'm not going to get into this one. I just wanted to point this one out. Apparently, TikTok is teaching influencers about the U.S. midterm election rules. So they're coming out with new election
Yeah.
rules. They're going to start freaking cracking down and censoring on TikTok, a
Yeah.
Chinese propaganda
Right, yeah.
website already. So we might as well ramp up our own propaganda. Says TikTok, which isn't it? Is this still Chinese owned? Why the fuck
I
does
think
why
so,
the fuck
yeah.
does China care about our midterm elections? Says TikTok's taking extra measures to limit misinformation and violations of its policies ahead of the midterm elections. The video platform announced new steps to ensure influencers understand that paid political ads are prohibited.
That
I'm fine with that. Honestly, I'm fine if every social media platform's like, no fucking paid political ads.
Oh,
We don't,
absolutely, yeah.
none. Just exit
yeah.
across the board.
No, I don't want to see it on YouTube. I don't want to see it on TV. I don't want to see any paid political ads.
Right. I'm over all of it. So,
Yes.
what were you gonna? You started to say something.
Oh, they when you said limit like misinformation. I mean, there are conspiracy theories on TikTok that blow my freaking mind. Like there's a guy that says that he comes on and he's like, I exited the Matrix today.
Again.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he's just like, and he'll explain it and like talk about it, and I'm just like,
Now,
really?
all you're doing right now is calling these people out. So all the interesting stuff on TikTok is going to go away. Now, let's not limit the teeny boppers dancing around in their underwear.
Right. Yeah.
Let's not
Yeah.
put
because
it
that's
into that
perfectly normal.
for full-grown adults to turn on their phones and see teeny boppers dancing in their underwear all day. But we got to get rid of dangerous election misinformation
Right,
because
yeah.
that's what's fucking
Yeah,
important.
right.
Not the pedophiles that are creeping on the girls dancing in their underwear
Right,
on
yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Priorities.
feel like TikTok has so many other fucking problems than
Yes.
does anybody get on TikTok to look for election information?
No. I hope not. Holy shit.
I mean, I hear stuff coming out of my teenager. It's like, oh, did you know blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that never happened. Where'd
Oh,
you hear that?
yeah.
On TikTok? Yeah, everything you hear on TikTok, you should just
Yeah. It's funny
understand
because
that's probably not true.
A friend of my wife's was talking to her, and she's like, yeah, so-and-so was talking about this politically that she heard on TikTok. And it's like, what do they push this in school? Do they just tell the kids, hey, go to this TikTok person and get your news?
That's
I mean,
probably American civics now. They just scroll through TikTok and like comment on different.
You're probably not
political-
wrong at
yeah,
all.
That's their civics class now is scrolling through TikTok. My civics class was watching the damn coverage of 9/11 and leading up to the War on Terror. That was actually literally my civics class every day, because 9/11 happened while I was in civics, and then every day after that for the whole quarter was, which I feel like that was probably unhealthy for a high school student. But just imagine today's world, though. The amount of propaganda that's in their face constantly. Again, I'm fine if they want to prohibit all forms of political ads.
Yeah.
I feel like the radio should follow suit.
Yep.
I feel like, like you said, YouTube should follow suit. Hulu, Netflix, whatever. I don't want to see any of that bullshit. So we're all for free speech, but political ads should be banned across the board.
Yes.
Like
do not waste my time.
I think political ads. I think there should be more grassroots political. Like I think.
Oh yeah, there should.
That
these paid for by
CPAC
people
or
for,
whatever.
yeah, right.
Yeah, or,
people for Biden.
Yeah, it's just like all these billions of dollars
Yeah.
going in. It's just like, no, I want to see Rick Shoemaker or whatever come on and be like, I don't know how I'm paying for this, but vote for me.
Yeah,
I
right.
support this and this.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all we need.
I don't want to hear whatever Marjorie Taylor Greene supports Donald Trump.
Right, yeah.
Paid for by BidenForPresident.org in support of Rick Shoemaker for Senate. It's just like,
yeah. Right.
It's like all these, just get rid of them all. We don't need them all. I mean, have you ever watched a political ad and been like, I'm going to vote for that guy? No. Ever once?
No.
Have you ever watched a political ad and actually thought, I want to go out and vote now?
Yeah.
No, it's more like, I fucking hate politics.
Yeah. It's like, come on, you're wasting my fucking time.
Like, it makes me want to vote even less.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm not going to vote for you just because you interrupted my show.
Mm-hmm. But again, TikTok has so many other concerns than just this. That, I mean, the fact that they're already like blowing this up, like, well, we're going to educate our influencers about midterm election rules. It's like, tell your influencers to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, that's really how you. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Social media influencers, I could go on a spiel about how these. I feel like social media influencers never organically become what they are.
Right.
I feel like there is, I don't know, you call it maybe a Fed element, maybe a Hollywood element or something that like boosts these people to where they are.
Right.
Because, I mean, it's always these people in like LA and shit like that. It's never like some Iowa corn farm kid that becomes it's like all these people that live like 2 blocks from Hollywood.
Some
It's
kid
like
that-
we built this on our own with our YouTube channel. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? You made billions of dollars by doing stupid shit on YouTube on your own without any It's kind of like they should put the paid for by Hollywood HollywoodSmellsKids.com, just they should be forced to put who has boosted them to this prominent position.
I agree.
Anyway, that was a soapbox I'd never intended to get into, but midterm elections are coming up.
Yeah.
So,
and then, as soon as that's done, come January, we're going to be smack dab by the presidential.
Oh God, really? Already?
Yeah.
Primaries are. I mean, they did kind of do the CPAC, the Republican CPAC or whatever, kicked off in Texas already before the midterm. So we got that to look forward to.
I'm not ready to go into another election year.
Election year? You're talking 2 years.
Well, no, I know that because
election
they seem
year
to get
has
longer
turned
every
into
year.
Election year has turned into 2 fucking years now because primaries will be probably like summer of next year,
probably
maybe. So they'll be pushing that shit real hard. I don't know.
God bless.
That's all the news we have for this weekend. You got anything else to add?
No, I can't think. I think we covered everything that's out there right now.
The CDC stuff gives me the biggest headache out of all of them.
Yeah.
Out of, hands down, mind-blowing headache.
Yeah, like you said, because of the way they're changing everything now. So,
like the Fed stuff, the FBI coming out with all these slogans saying, "Hey,
that was coming."
Yeah, we know, we knew that, we knew that was coming. But
Yeah.
that tells me they're building up to we kind of predicted, I guess, on our show with Jose that there's going to be another event. They're building up to some event. I think we had said we thought that they wanted January 6th to be that event, but it turned
didn't
out to
happen,
be a big fucking
So they
joke.
need something bigger.
Yeah. And so the fact that they're pushing that all these groups are extremists if they have this or if that, if you know somebody that has a tattoo of the Punisher skull, he may be an extremist. So watch out. Watch your back. It's like the freaking Red Scare all over again. The blacklist, just like, do you have a commie neighbor? Call our FBI hotline and turn in your commie neighbor if you're a true American.
Yeah. Do you have an MVE living next to you?
Yeah. Are you a true American? Because if you have an MVE, a militarily violent extremist living next to you, you may not know it. But if you suspect it, it is your duty to turn in.
Do they fly the American flag? Do they listen to the national anthem? Do they listen to Lee Greenwood?
You be a patriot, not a patriot.
Yeah, be a non-patriot. And
do you love your country? Turn in patriots that fly American flags because they're extremists, and you're. I don't even like how if you can't call yourself a patriot, you can't say you love your country.
Right.
You can't play country music. So what do you call them then? A pawn?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't
know.
We got to get out of here for real.
Yeah.
Make sure you check us out all over social media. Be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for our main episode, which, as always, will be fun.
Yeah.
I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk so hard about it.
Yeah.
Make sure you join us for that. Share this all over social media, far and wide, so we can get our name out there. If you want to support us in any way, shape, or form, besides your beautiful ear holes that you listen to us with, you can go to patreon.com/breakthebell and sign up for any of those levels and have access to bonus content, merch options, all these different options that are out there that we always forget to plug on each show. We do have Patreon, so help us out. Support us, patreon.com/breakthebell.
We need to get some products so we can just show them, wear the shirts and stuff.
I have the bug shirt, so I should bring it in tomorrow. Because this whole bug narrative is coming out heavy and hard, too.
Yeah.
So, do that. Share us.
Yes.
Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your weekend, a couple hours that are left. Get out and get away from all the bullshit that we're shoving down your throats right now. Just be a human and enjoy yourself.
I like that. Be human.
Have a great rest of your weekend. We'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.